The recent arrests and deportation of 10 people convicted as acting as agents of the Russian intelligence service led many in the mainstream media to focus on portions of the Justice Department's criminal complaint, which, frankly, read like something out of a Cold War spy novel. Coded messages, dead drops, high-tech secret exchanges of information and money, disappearing ink, and of course, the James Bond-esque Russian beauty. One alleged member of the spy ring, the so-called paymaster, as of this production remains on the loose after skipping out on bail granted by a judge on the Mediterranean island of Cyprus. The case ended on July 9th with the largest deportation and exchange of spies between Moscow and the United States since the Cold War. And while it may have made for an intriguing story on a slow news day, intelligence professionals seem genuinely surprised and amused by the size and ineptness of this latest Russian effort to uncover valuable information. In an era when so much sensitive and even classified information is leaked to the press and online websites and can be gleaned from open sources, intelligence professionals seem genuinely perplexed by the effort put into such an amateur group for the purposes of obtaining information that could have just as easily been gleaned from the Washington Post. Some still question whether there is more to the story than meets the eye. HSTV spoke briefly with a group of intelligence and security experts who were gathered in Washington, D.C. to help promote Angelina Jolie's new movie, Salt, which deals with the issue of Russian sleeper agents in the U.S. intelligence community. Among those we spoke with were Oleg Kalugin, the former head of the Soviet KGB in the United States, James Woolsey, a former director of the CIA, and Tom Ridge, the nation's first Secretary of Homeland Security. Here's what they had to say. So obviously the premise of this film is that there's this vast network of sleeper agents throughout the United States, and that they integrate into society and they wait to be activated at a later date. So Oleg, I'd like to start with you and find out if, at the risk of sounding like the boogeyman here, just how real is this threat today?
Are you talking about the movie or the real facts?
The real facts.
The real facts are, well, have been recently made public about the Russian spy network, the illegals, so-called, who used false, documents and pretended to be loyal American citizens. That's something unusual from my experience. In my time, that was decades ago, we practically had no illegals in this country, and if we did have, they had a very specific job. They had to prepare grounds for, say, contingency, so-called planning, if the war was just about to erupt between the United States and the USSR at that time. They would say blow up power stations in Washington area. So, but that was at the worst time of the Cold War. Today, this group of Russians look really, to me, as a waste of money and human lives and just time.
Well, that's interesting.
I think it's totally shows the, well, I'm sorry to say that, I may be wrong, the ineptitude of the Russian intelligence service.
That's interesting that you say that, because my next question was, and I'd like to get you, Mr. Woolsey, to comment on this as well, is that it seems like they may be sort of the B team, if you will, and perhaps, this was my thinking, that is it possible that this was a distraction to sort of get the eyes turned away from the real threat, which may be better placed, more highly trained?
I think it's more likely, although that would be a clever operation, I think it's more likely that it's a certain sense of paranoia that there's secret cabals inside U.S. circles that actually get together and decide what's going on, and it never shows up on the internet and so forth. I think it's probably some mentality of that sort, plus being with Putin and the job and all of the Siloviki, the former KGB people running things in the Kremlin. The KGB may have more money than it knows what to do with, and one example is that it feels relaxed in wasting it spying on suburban management consulting firms. So who knows? But we'll see. We may learn something really very nefarious about this. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Governor Ridge, were you surprised, as the former Secretary of Homeland Security, that these individuals were allegedly trying to infiltrate policy, decision-making circles, as opposed to technology secrets, trade secrets, economic secrets? Because that seems to be my understanding of the
I think the Russians could probably save them a lot of money if they just subscribed to the New York Times, the Washington Post, and read them. I mean, my colleagues have been in that profession much longer than I, but just the notion that where they looked to infiltrate and the kind of information they would glean from that infiltration seemed to be rather strange to me and of very little value. But obviously, or hopefully there's more to it than that. I might have let them play it along a little bit and seen if the network's even bigger, but there's a reason they pulled the trigger on them, and we may never know it.
Right. Final question would be, Oleg, my time is up. I'd like to know, how has the successor organization, how does it differ, the successor organization, the KGB, how does it differ from when KGB was operating in? Different targets, different tradecraft?
Nothing has changed in that sense, but in my time, the guys like me were dedicated officers who joined the organization out of enthusiasm, I mean ideological motivations. Current security and intelligence sometimes, looks attractive because it's adventure, and it's also better pay. I mean, money makes some sense. It's probably you can make more money if you work with some private enterprise, but this is a stable foreign assignments, seeing the world, all that people's government expects.
Great. Well, my time is up. Thanks very much, everybody, for your time.